So these are the 3 pattern pieces that we need for the t-shirt. If you have a little look at them, we've got the sleeve, which is a cut 2 of, 1 on reverse, which means we cut it once this way, turn it over, once that way, okay? You've got the t-shirt back, which is a cut on fold, and the t-shirt front is also a cut on fold. So make sure you fold your fabric over, and the side where it says cut on fold, make sure you place that right onto the fold, and then what you need to do is pin that pattern down, and you're cutting around the pattern piece but not up the fold, okay? Once you cut round that, it means that then it will open out into a nice front piece. So when you're cutting out your sleeves for your t-shirt, pop it on your fabric once this way, pin it and cut round it, and then once on the reverse. So now you've cut all of those out, you should have 4 pieces all together. So you should have your front piece that you've cut on the fold, your back piece that you've cut on the fold, and your 2 sleeves, one of which you would have reversed to cut. So now place the front piece onto the back piece, and what you're doing is pinning along the 2 sides and pinning along the 2 shoulders as well, and they're the points that you need to sew at. Make sure that you don't sew the armholes or the neck hole, because otherwise you haven't got a head to put through or arms to put through, okay? So pinning and sewing down the 2 sides and along the 2 shoulders. So you will have now sewn down your 2 sides and across the top of your shoulders as well. Do make sure when you're sewing it that you put your lock stitch in at the beginning and at the end of your stitch, just using the reverse stitch button on your sewing machine. So once you have sewn that part together, the next bit you need to do is your sleeves. So you'll notice that if you look at your sleeve, there's a bit more of a curve on the one side, okay? And that's the part that you would have on your back. So when you're popping your sleeves out, make sure that you have those together, okay? So you want the 2 more curved sides to kind of reach together at this point. So then fold one that way and fold the other inwards, okay? And what you need to do now is pin and sew down your 2 straights. And now you will have sewn down your 2 straights. Again, make sure that you pop your lock stitch in at the beginning and at the end of those. So next we're going to insert these into the actual t-shirt part. So at this point, turn these sleeves the correct way round. So we're now working with our sleeves the correct way round. The t-shirt body should still be with the seams on the outside, okay? So keep that inside out, sleeves turned the correct way round. When you come to insert these, make sure you place them with that little bit. So remember we said about there's a bit more of a curve, you can see that, okay? But that bit that sticks out more, that bit goes to the back. So place them this way, okay, with that bit of an edge coming out on that side. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is just insert these into the actual t-shirt. So your sleeve has now been inserted into that armhole. What you need to do to start it with is you want the seam of your sleeve to be on the seam of the actual t-shirt body. Pin it at that point, and then you're pinning round, and that's the part that you're sewing. Now when you come to sew these sleeves in, there's a part of your sewing machine that you can actually remove. So you'll need to take that off, and you actually just insert your sleeve onto here, and it just helps it wind round. So you put your sleeve on for 1 second. Like so, okay, and keep the edge of the foot on the edge of your fabric. Start at that armpit seam because you don't want anything bulky at the other points of your sleeve. So start sewing from the armpit sleeve, and you're just rolling it around. Now on the sewing machines we have at college here, we are using stitch length 3, and we are using the stitch selection as 3 as well. It might be slightly different on your sewing machine at home, but you're just wanting a basic straight stitch. So your sleeve should now be sewn in all the way around the edge, and at this point you can now take out the pins and you can fold the t-shirt the correct way around. You can see we've now got the t-shirt sleeve sewn in. So what we do at this point is we're creating a nice double turned over hem along the bottom and along the sleeves. So all you're doing at this point is folding it in once, folding it in twice, all the way around, pinning and sewing. So we've now got pinned a lovely double turned over hem that is on the bottom of the t-shirt and on the sleeves, and what we need to do now is sew round it. Start at one of the side seams and go all the way around. Don't forget to put your lock stitch in at the beginning and end, and try and sew as close to this folded edge as you can. You'll now have your t-shirt with a lovely sewn hem, which you would have hemmed up from the inside and sewn from the inside as close to that fold as you can get. So you've got just a lovely neat line on the outside on the bottom of your t-shirt and also on the sleeves. Next, you're going to need to create some bias binding for the neckline of the t-shirt. Remember, the bias is actually the diagonal across your fabric, because it's actually the bias, the diagonal, which is the stretchiest part of your fabric. And as we are going to be inserting this around on a rounded neckline, you need it to have that little bit of stretch so we can curve it around the neckline. So what you need to do is draw yourself a strip of fabric across the diagonal. You want it to probably be about 2 inches wide, and make sure that it will fit the neckline of your t-shirt. So just take your tape measure, measure around the neckline, and you want that measurement there. Do add 2 extra inches onto that though to allow for the crossover. So once you've cut your strip out for your bias binding, over onto the iron, and you are creating your bias binding by folding the one edge in towards the middle and ironing all the way along that to pop a crease in, and then once you've done that, you're ironing the other side into the center so that they meet, and ironing along there to create 2 nice sharp folds. Once you've ironed your bias binding, it should look a little bit like that. So you have one fold there that you've ironed all the way down to create that crease, and then the other fold to have ironed all that down for that other crease as well, meeting in the middle. So starting from the back of the neckline, from the inside, you're going to start pinning your bias binding round. So fold out that first fold, okay, and you pop in the edge of the bias binding to the edge of your neckline all the way around, and you're pinning, okay. When you first put it on though, do kind of fold it over a little bit there so you've got a neat bit when you come to sew it on the outside. So your bias binding, you want that to be pinned all the way around the neckline from the inside. When you come back to finish it off over here, just cross that last bit over across the fold that you originally made, pin it and just trim it to where it needs to be. And then what you're doing now is your aim is to sew all the way around the bias binding on the neckline, trying to keep your stitch on this fold line. So now that you've sewn the bias binding from the inside, you now need to fold this over the top. So you're not actually unfolding that fold, you're just going to keep that in and you're going to fold that down. You want this to just kind of sit just above where the stitching is, so you're going to cover over that stitching. So fold that down, pin it, and then you're going to stitch all the way along, trying to get as close to this edge as possible. So you'll now have a lovely neat neckline from your bias binding all the way around, and you can see that we've stitched as close to that folded down edge as possible, and that actually completes the making of your t-shirt. So you'll now have a lovely finished t-shirt, really nice loose baggy boxy t-shirt. And if you want to make it look a little bit funkier, just roll the sleeves up to get some nice turn ups and just give it a little bit of a roll and tuck at the front.